Hello and welcome to the You've Got Sales podcast. I'm David Ravel. This is episode 4. And if anybody is listening at all, I just want to say I really appreciate you. I appreciate you massively for joining me. Hopefully today is going to be useful for you. This is the last episode I'm going to do on my own before I start having some guests in to talk about sales stuff. So the last 2 episodes are based on how to create the perfect sales CV/resume. And today I'm going to talk about my 10 top tips for salespeople who are job seekers looking for a new role. Now, you could be somebody who's actively on the market looking for a job, or you could be somebody who just wants to have better opportunities come their way from headhunters and recruiters. This is useful if you're wanting a higher salary. It's useful if you want to work for a better company, and it's useful especially if you're out there without a job right now. The job market is extremely tough for salespeople. I know salespeople have been around on the market for almost 18 months. The stress on their families is huge. And there's a lot of things that you can do to give yourself a better chance at getting a role quickly or a higher paying role, and avoid the stress that comes with it. Nowadays it is a lot harder to get a role, in my opinion. The UK economy is not doing particularly well, so a lot of companies aren't hiring. And what that means is that there is more candidates than there is, or job seekers than there is roles. So the saturation in the market is huge and your competition is massive. I mean, one of the roles I ran last month had 500 applicants, and that's before I even did any headhunting on it. 500 applicants. And yeah, sure, only about 10-15% of those people were even close relevant, but that's still a lot of people. That's 50 or so people who are still relevant. So it's very difficult for you to stand out. It's difficult to show why you're better than other people out there, because everybody claims they're great, but it's very difficult for you to do that on paper or in the job search. So here's going to be my top 10 tips to help you get a high paying role faster or get into a new role quickly. Let's get cracking. So number 1, treat your job search the same way as you treat your sales process. The process of selling a product and the process of selling yourself is identical. Your customer, in this sense, is your hiring manager or the company that you want to work for or applying for. Most salespeople are extremely good at selling their products and services. They are useless at selling themselves, especially on paper and especially during the job search process. It's like all the skills they've learned, they completely forget when it comes to themselves. So treat your job search the same way as you treat your sales process. And what do I mean by that? So when you're in a sales role, if you're going after, let's say you've joined a new company and you want to sell your product or service, how would you go about that? Well, the way that you go about that is the same way we're going to talk about now in terms of going about how you can get a job. So this is what a lot of people call the Dream 100 strategy. It works really well. It's a much more proactive way of getting traction with companies. Most people think the job search or the job hunt, it means just sitting at a desk, pressing the apply button on job adverts. I'm going to annoy some people here, but that's not job hunting. That is easy mode. It is not hard to sit and press a button for adverts that you're probably not even reading. That is not job hunting. Everyone is doing that. It's impossible for you to stand out. You go into a black hole of 1,000 CVs. You know, it's not efficient, and it's not how you would go about finding a customer. If there was a way that you go through find a customer through that process, you'd be like, that's not selling. That's not how you go about finding customers. That's not the way you go about finding jobs. Do you have to do it? Absolutely. You still have to apply for roles online for sure, but that shouldn't be your only method. There is a much more effective method, and that's the Dream 100 strategy. So it works like this, and it's the same way you'd approach customers. Draw up a list of 100 companies or 50 or 200 companies that you'd want to work for. Put them in a spreadsheet. You might think, oh, well, Dave, I don't know what sort of companies I want to target. I would break that down into 2 types of companies. First are companies that are within your industry. Those are the low-hanging fruit. So whatever industry you're in, if you're in healthcare industry, education, whatever it is, all the companies, do some research and find the companies that you'd probably most want to work for, or even all the companies in that industry, because they're going to be the ones that you're going to have the best possible chance of breaking into, because your experience is very relevant and you could make money for them immediately and hit the ground running. So I break it up into 1, companies within your niche, and number 2, companies that you want to work for that interest you. So you've got an interest in a particular product or an industry or something that is a personal interest to you, draw up a list of those companies as well. You're probably not going to have as much traction with them, but you never know. People can jump across industries, and the way that we go about this process, you could impress them in terms of how you go about this process. We're going to talk about in a second. So draw up a list of these 100 companies. Now, if you can't get 100 companies or many companies, there's a third option you can do, which is the pivot point for you. If you want to go into another industry, or maybe there's no companies recruiting in your industry, the thing that you want to pivot off is your customer base. So let's say you sell catering products, and the catering companies in your industry, there's not many of them, or you don't want to work for any of them. You want to go to another industry. Okay, that does happen. The thing that you need to look at is the industry that you sell into. So if you sell catering products, it's going to be hospitality industry. Pivot off the hospitality industry. Have a look at what other companies or what other industries sell into hospitality. So it could be cleaning and hygiene, furniture, food, drinks, etc. Not just catering supplies products. So you've got lots of different industries there that all sell into the same customers as you currently do. So draw up a list of food companies, cleaning and hygiene companies, whatever they might be, companies that sell into your current customer base, because that is going to be the thing that you can pivot off to jump into another industry. It's very difficult for you to jump into an industry where you haven't sold the product and you haven't sold into that customer before. It's very difficult to do that. But if you want to pivot into another industry, but you haven't sold the product, obviously, the closest next best thing is selling into that type of customer base. If you've sold into healthcare before, education, hospitality, you understand the quirks of it, you understand that customer base, you can even come over with some customers. That's the thing that you want to pivot off. So drop a list of either companies within your niche, companies within that interest you, or companies that are linked to your customer base in some way. So we've got our 100 companies in this Excel spreadsheet. Number 2 step is getting all the people who are potential hiring managers or involved in the hiring process into that spreadsheet. So you can find the owners, founders, managing directors, CEOs, sales directors, sales managers, HR people, internal talent acquisition teams. List everybody that you can get on LinkedIn from those companies. Then step 3 from there, start reaching out to those people in those companies. Now, most of the time, they're not going to be hiring. They're not. But if you reach out to those people via email, LinkedIn, calling them, imagine that. Imagine calling someone like the same way you call a customer, see if they got any jobs. Same process. Also, I like to use the LinkedIn voice note or the LinkedIn video feature, direct video, because it helps you stand out and adds a bit of personality to your initial outreach message, better than just an email or a text message. So start reaching out to these people, showing the value that you can bring to the table, the achievements that you've had, the products you've sold, the industries you've sold into, and asking them if they've got any roles available. Simple as that. Now, most of these companies aren't going to have roles. That's completely fine. But if they do, if you send a direct video message to a sales director who is hiring on LinkedIn, you're demonstrating the exact skills that they want to see from their salespeople, but you're doing it in the hiring process. You're going straight to the source, and you're reaching out to the decision maker, exactly like you would do with a customer or a client. That's fantastic for a sales director to see. That really helps you stand out across all the other people who are just applying online. So you can go straight to the source and stand out. You can also potentially bypass a long recruitment process and go straight to the source. And the third thing that happens, especially with sales, is if you've got very relevant experience for a company and they're not hiring right now, you could create a role out of scratch for yourself from nothing. They might create a role from you that wasn't on the market because you're coming with something that's extremely valuable, and you might create a role for yourself. You could never do that unless you get in front of these companies and show what you can bring to the table. Now, some people will go, "Oh, Dave, does that actually work? No one's going to really do that. No one's going to." Okay, I can promise you it works because there is a multi-100, 200 billion pound industry called the recruitment industry that does exactly that. That's exactly the process I do with candidates. If someone's got a really good profile, I know they're suitable for 100 companies in my sector, I take that person and start marketing them to those companies. You're just taking out the middleman. That's all you're doing. Billions is made by recruiters doing that exact process. So it does work because there's an entire industry built off the back of it. So the Dream 100 strategy, highly recommend it. Start treating your job search process like your customer acquisition process. Don't just sit there on a job board pressing buttons. Most salespeople who've been around for a long time on the market are just sat there pressing apply buttons, usually with a shoddy CV, which is point number 2. So update your CV is point number 2. If your only strategy has been applying for roles online and your CV looks like dog's doo-doo, you're in big trouble. And that's where most people fall apart. Their CVs are awful. Now, it's not your fault. You're not trained to write a good CV. No one teaches us how to write a good one. So invest in this process. Find a CV or resume writer who specializes in your discipline, so sales, and get them to help you write one. You don't know what sales leaders want to see. They do. That's what we do at CV Champion. We're the only sales CV writing company on the planet for salespeople, doesn't matter where they are in the world. And we did 2 studies to figure out exactly what sales leaders want to see. We did a study with 4,000 sales leaders to see exactly what they wanted to see from the perfect sales resume or CV. We know without a fact what they want to see, and I've been recruiting salespeople for years and years and years. So we know how to create the perfect CV for you. If you're interested in that, you can reach out to me, LinkedIn or any other one of our social media pages. And we also have a free guide called the Sales Resume Roadmap, where we take all that knowledge and put it into a free guide for you so you can implement it yourself. That's on my LinkedIn page, social media pages, under CV Champion, David Revell on LinkedIn, or you can see it in the description of this this podcast. When it comes to your CV, I like to tell a little story about how I met my fiance. We met on Hinge, a dating app, but she initially thought I looked like a bit of a douchebag in my pictures. It wasn't until she went down to the bottom. There was a picture of me wearing a metal shirt by a band called Pantera. She was a Pantera fan. Not many people like heavy metal, especially not girls. And she was like, that's interesting, and decided to message me off the back of that shirt. 4 years later, we're getting married in the next few months. That one small detail changed both of our lives completely. And that is the power of what your CV can have. One small sales detail that's missing might lose you that opportunity for an interview. One small sales detail that's included might take you from a no to a yes or a maybe, let's have a conversation. All of those small details are detailed in our Sales Resume Roadmap. So check that out. Whatever you do, don't just stick it into ChatGPT and think that's going to do enough. Right? It's not. Get somebody to help you who knows what they're doing. However, be very wary of resume writers and CV writers if they have not ever come from your specialist field. If they've not come from sales, if they've never been a sales manager, sales director, sales recruiter, salesperson, how can they possibly know how to write your CV or resume in a way that sales leaders want to see? They've never been in your field before. They wouldn't have a clue where to start. So some writers will charge you a very pretty penny without ever having any knowledge about your industry. That makes absolutely no sense. Don't fall for these people. Some of them can be in the hundreds of pounds, and all they'll do is give you a nice little pretty looking template, which has also never been tested according to visual science, the study of how people read online. It'll be look nice though, look nice, nice and pretty, and they have lovely grammar. That's not what's important. What's important is the sales content in the CV is the most important thing. And only someone who's been in sales, who understands sales, will be able to ask you the questions to figure out what those answers are and get that on paper in order for salespeople sales leaders want to read it. So be very careful of these charlatans. Another thing you want to be careful of is people who their USP for reaching out to you will be that your template will be ATS compliant. ATS means applicant tracking system. These are the systems that recruiters and companies use to sort of pass through CVs initially. They will tell you a lie that basically if your CV is not ATS compliant, that you'll be rejected automatically from these systems. It's a lie. There is a law in the US where people's CVs have to be seen by a human first. I'm not sure about the UK, but I know for a fact in the UK that no one is using these systems to automatically reject people. That is just not true. That could change in the future, probably will with the way AI is going, but at the moment it's not. A human being is on the other end of that, of the computer when you send over your CV. So if you're going to update your CV, it could change everything for you, but use a specialist writer and be wary of charlatans talking about ATS systems or nice grammar or anything like that. That's what you'll be careful of. Point number 3, update your LinkedIn profile. Your CV is your aggressive marketing. That's you applying. Your LinkedIn is your defensive marketing. That means people are coming to you more often. You're not going to be applying to roles with LinkedIn profiles very often. Most of the time it's going to be a CV, but recruiters and headhunters will be searching for you on LinkedIn in order to headhunt you. Now, if you don't set up your LinkedIn profile correctly, no one can ever find you. So there's 2 main things when it comes to your LinkedIn profile. One, making it actually look presentable. You know, having a photo that's not from 2006 or not a group photo of you holding a pint or something like that. Just a white background, you smiling at the camera, boom, and just making sure all your information is up to date. The second thing is making sure that your profile can be found. LinkedIn for recruiters works like a search engine. We put in keywords, and those keywords will help us search for people like you. It'll bring us results. So if I'm looking for a business development manager who has sold catering supplies products, I'm searching in the back end of LinkedIn, business development manager, catering supplies. If you're a business development manager and you sell catering supplies, but you don't say it anywhere on your LinkedIn profile, I'm never going to find you unless I know every single company in the world who sells catering supplies products. If you're a specialist in that niche, then you would, but most recruiters don't, and HR people or internal recruitment people don't know all the companies in any given niche. So you need to put that specifically on your profile. So the products that you've sold, get that in your profile. The sectors that you've sold into, again, I'm searching for people who have sold into healthcare, hospitality, whatever it might be. Your job title, do not say BDM, CAM, RSM, ASM. It's business development manager, area sales manager, key account manager, and also spelling it correctly as well. So many people spell manager manger and you aren't found. So make sure all of that information is in there so that you can be found. Another thing is making sure that your CV and LinkedIn profile line up. So many people send me their CVs and they've got a different amount of roles than they do on their LinkedIn profile. It makes you look like you're lying. So try and keep it all the same so that it makes sense. There's a lot more that can be said about LinkedIn, but we'll leave it there for that one. Just make sure that you're visible. Oh, and also, don't post stupid shit. Don't post loads of political stuff. No one wants to see how much you hate Trump. No one wants to see how much you hate Elon. No one wants to know how much Keir Starmer is doing badly. No one cares about Rachel Reeves. If you're posting constantly political nonsense, people are going to read that and they will avoid you. They will. You're alienating half the people who are going to view your profile. You think, God, they're going to be high maintenance. So keep it professional if you're going to post on there. Right, number 4, references. This is one of the most powerful things that you can give along with your application that could make or break an interview and make or break a job offer. Put yourself in the shoes of the hiring manager. Hiring is stressful. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to look like an idiot. They don't want to find the wrong person. It might come as a surprise to some of you that salespeople exaggerate things, and some are even liars. Who would have thought that? So a lot of sales leaders are suspicious of salespeople in sales processes, and they're right to be so. So am I. I'm suspicious of what a lot of people tell me. So what can you do to help put a potential hiring manager's mind at ease, a reference from an ex-leader. Social proof is one of the most impactful things that you can do. You know this from selling your products, customer testimonials, reviews on your products, on Amazon reviews. The products that sell the most are always the ones with the reviews. We trust what other people say. And if you can send with your application, or even after you've applied, maybe after you've interviewed, send a couple of references from ex-leaders that's saying that you're the dog's bollocks, that's only going to help your case. If you're neck and neck with somebody else, which most hiring processes are, it usually comes down to 2 or 3 people, very close, fine margins. You can give that a little extra 1% by getting an ex-sales leader to have a really lovely reference for you and show evidence that you are as good as you say you are. It puts the hiring manager's mind at ease and sort of backs up what it is that you've been telling them. Now, getting a reference is harder these days. Usually companies can will only give dates that you've worked there. But if you've got ex-sales leaders, they'll be happy to help you with a good reference, or customer references as well, testimonials from ex-customers. If people like you, they'd want to help you. What doesn't work is getting a reference from Karen in customer services. Her opinion has no weight in the application process. So it's got to be an ex-sales leader or an ex-leader of some sort or a customer for it to actually have any value. Okay. So that's number 4. That is references. Number 5, thank you notes / gifts. Like I said a minute ago, often when you're in the interview process, it's a 2 or 3 horse, sometimes a 4 horse race, and it comes down to very fine margins. After each interview, just send a nice little thank you email for their time. It's what you do with a customer. So you're evidencing, the skills that you'd use in sales in the process once again. If you want to go one step further, especially if it's a last stage interview, buy them a gift. I had a candidate who bought a book for a well-known sports person that he knew a hiring manager was interested in from the interview process. And he left that book at reception at his last stage interview and he got that job. And he wasn't the favorite for it. It's an extremely personal and well thought through strategy to go and do that. No one else is going to do it. And it could take you from last place to first place. Same with thank you notes. Leave them at reception after you've left. Why not? It's not going to hurt your chances. And it's a nice little touch. So thank you notes and gifts is number 5. Number 6, be careful of AI. What do I mean by this? A lot of people are starting to use AI CV builders online. Don't do that. Why? Well, as you may have noticed, being a job seeker, most of the job postings that you see read like hell. They've got missing information. They've got inaccurate information. The requirements, there's 20 requirements on there, most of which are not required. They're just packing it out with nonsense. And there's inaccurate information and missing information on them. So when I speak to a client, I change almost 80% of the job posting. It's sometimes 100%. I change the whole thing because they've not thought through the exact type of requirements that they want, or they say some requirements are a must-have when they're not, some are a desirable when they're not. And it's hard to decipher exactly what they're always looking for. If I'm changing 80% of a posting, if you're then getting an AI builder to build you a CV based off the back of that shit posting, guess what you're going to end up with? A shit CV. AI is only as good as its inputs. And if it's a shit description, it's going to create a shit CV. So don't do that. Don't use AI just to reach out to everybody sending generic messages. We can see it from a mile away and it doesn't look good. It's not a good look. So be careful of using AI. That being said, one area that is really useful with AI that helps in the job search process or the interview process is presentation AIs. I've seen probably 400 or 500 presentations from candidates, and most people aren't very good at doing them, especially from a design perspective, like the actual visuals of it, they're not very good. So there's lots of AI presentation softwares out there like Gamma. I think PowerPoint has its own one these days, where you can literally input the content and it will create a lovely presentation for you. They're great and they save a lot of time and they're better looking than what most people can create on their own. So try the AI presentation softwares. They're great. But ignore a lot of the AI tools out there like the CV builders. They are not good at all. And just linking the last point with this point, when you do a presentation, always tell them at the end of the presentation that you're going to send a follow-up email just to summarize the presentation and also the next steps. Because that's exactly what you do with a customer. I had a guy who was, again, neck and neck with another candidate. He did his presentation, told them he'd send a follow-up email, got in his car, sent a follow-up email. The client loved it. They'd never seen that before. And that is that 1% little extra that took him ahead of the other person in the process. So, yeah, following up your presentation, and if you can use AI, yeah, use it for presentations. Working with recruiters, number 7. Working with recruiters. God, we're a funny bunch. Where do you begin on this one? Pros and cons of working with a recruiter. The pro is they're going to find you jobs that you could never find on your own. They've got relationships that you don't have. So they can save you a lot of effort and aggro. And a lot of them want to genuinely help you be the best you can be in interview and will give you a lot of valuable advice. The cons is that they will often treat you like cattle in a very transactional way. Because a lot of recruiters, they kind of work like, they just throw CVs at walls and they don't really put any effort into the process at all. They're kind of just throwing CVs across tables. They don't add any value to the process. They will eventually go out of business as AI takes hold. But there is a lot of recruiters out there who aim to really add a lot of value and make attractive roles and make you look attractive to clients and help you and guide you and get you better money and everything, because it makes sense for them. They want the best for you, and what's best for you is best for them as well, and is what's best for the client. One thing to bear in mind, and people get upset by this, is the recruiter doesn't owe you anything. You're not paying them a penny for their service, as bad as it sometimes might be. It's a free service. They aren't there to work for you. They're there to work for their clients. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. That's just the truth. As a recruiter, if you don't service your clients, you don't have a job. So, they're the ones paying us at the end of the day. We have to adhere to what they say and what they want. Does that mean that recruiters should treat you like shit? Absolutely not. Getting feedback, treating people with respect. Absolutely. It's just inexcusable when recruiters, don't give feedback and treat people horribly or ghost them or whatever. But they're also not there to bow down to your every whim. And, I have some candidates come to me and they get kind of a little bit angry that I haven't got jobs for them, like I'm not doing enough work for them. That's not how it works. I'm there to get candidates for my clients. And if they're not suitable for those clients, then they're not getting a call. It's not a personal thing. It's just, you have to prioritize. If I spent all of my time getting back to every candidate, giving them the highest level of service I possibly could and helping everybody, I wouldn't have a job. I'd be out of work because you guys don't pay us. So it's simple, really. So just have that in mind when you're working with your recruiter, unless you want to pay them tens of thousands of pounds, and you absolutely have a right to, talk to them however you like and get upset with, their results. But most of them, they want to help you, but they're not going to go out of their way to put all of their time and effort and energy into getting you a job. They've got, for me personally, I've got 10,000 candidates in my network. I can't help all those people. You can only help a small amount of people at certain times. Otherwise, it's impossible. So just have that mindset going into it. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. It's just, you've got to be realistic. And try and build relationships with recruiters in your niche. If you're going to work with them, find people in your niche and build relationships with them. Also help them out. Like, find leads for them. If somebody spoke to you about a job and you weren't interested, go and give it to the recruiter who you like. Like, you scratch their back, they'll scratch yours. Try and add value to their day. Come to them with information. Share their posts on LinkedIn, like their posts, get their stuff out there. Try and add value to them because, the onus is on the candidate, the recruiter, only to add value to your life. Well, it goes both ways. But very few candidates do that. You just sort of sit back and expect you to do this, that, and the other. No, I'm there to work for the client. Unless you want to, help me, and I'll help you as much as I possibly can. So find somebody in your niche. And when you reach out to them, the worst thing you can do, I get people who just reach out and just go, find job, please, with their CV attached. Like, oh yeah, it's a real great way to stand out. I'm supposed to be selling you to a client and you just go, find job, please. Like, actually try and build a relationship with these people. Because if you do, they'll have your back. And there's candidates who I've worked with who I've become extremely close friends with, and we help each other all the time. And that's what you want. You want to build a relationship with these people. A lot of people complain about being treated like, cattle, like a commodity when it comes to recruiters. Well, I can assure you that candidates and clients treat recruiters like that as well. So we get it from both ends. We're all responsible for treating each other a little bit better. All of us. And it starts with you as well, the job seeker. So work with the recruiters, absolutely. Pick a few who are in your niche. Don't go and work with, office angels and stuff like that, because it's not going to be relevant for you. Number 8. Very quickly, number 8. Learn how to negotiate salary. I'm not going to go through salary negotiation now in detail, but there's so many videos out there where you can learn to negotiate salary. If you want more money, the recruiter's going to help you. I will negotiate on your part, but you need to learn how to negotiate your salary. You negotiate pricing all the time, I bet, in your job. Learn to do it for your salary as well. Same for package, everything else. There's millions of videos out there on YouTube. Learn how to do that. Number 9, preparing for interviews. My Lord. I think it was Alex Hormozy who said 20 minutes of preparation adds 20 IQ points. And I think that's really true. I've had people turn up to interviews who have not done any preparation and they look like an utter idiot. It's not a good look. So when it comes to preparing for interviews, prepare, website, LinkedIn of the company, the LinkedIn profile of the hiring manager. Thoroughly read the job description, understand the job description. People turn up without knowing, haven't even read the job description before, and it's embarrassing for them. There's so much information out there online for companies. You can get AI to help you as well. Put together preparation documents. Learn about the wider industry, news in that industry that you're potentially going into, about the products that are being sold, changes within that market. There's so much you can go loaded in with into interviews to be prepared. And it makes you sound incredibly credible. Excuse me. incredibly credible. There's something that doesn't seem quite right about that phrase. But you don't want to turn up and not have an idea about anything. I've had candidates turn up and they don't even know really about the products that the company sells or the industries they sell into. It's like, it's on the website, guy. And I've also told them as well. This is the thing. Like, I sit down for 2 hours to prepare people sometimes, and then they go into the interview and they still don't know anything. It's crazy. So prepare for the interview. One of the things to prepare for that has a huge impact is ask great questions. Never get to the end of the interview having never asked a question. It makes you look like you're not interested, and it doesn't shine very well. Ask great questions. What are the big challenges for the company? What is your expectations of me in the first 12 months? What are your expectations of me immediately? What pains does this fix for the company? What do you foresee as some of the biggest hurdles in the industry coming up? One of the questions that I really love is a question from an FBI negotiator called Chris Voss. And he says, simple question, how can I be guaranteed to work on projects that are critical for our future together? I love that question because it forces the listener, the interviewer, to really think about that answer, and it really shows that you're thinking deeply about this opportunity. So sometimes the questions can be make and they can be break as well. Again, there's so many good resources out there for questions. You can find them, but go prepared with a few of those as well. Number 10. To close out this podcast is number 10, and that is closing in an interview. Your job is going to be closing deals all the time. Very few salespeople close the hiring manager at interview. You're again demonstrating the skills and values you have as a salesperson in the process. If you hit them with an incredibly good close, wow, it's super, super powerful. And sales leaders want to see it because they're like, if they can't close me here, how are they going to close this in this deal or this with this customer? So make sure you close yourself in an interview. People close in different ways. Again, there's loads of videos out there. Find a way that suits you best and close that interviewer at the end. Okay, so they're my top 10 points. I hope some of those were useful. I'm probably going to do another video on this at some point, my top 10 more points, just going in a bit more detail. But you've been listening to the You've Got Sales podcast. This has been number 4. If you've got this far, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again soon. Bye now.